All right, Lamar, you ready to try and bring us in on beat?
Hold on. All right, so we're just gonna throw me right into this, huh? He said, all right, you ready, Lamar? I said, wait, hold up. He plays the music anyway. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we in the building, but we got no ceilings. Got 2 special guests, so it's like a new beginning. I never had these bars. I'm surprised I got this far. 8 3s, 1s, 2s. I'm not really sure what we're gonna do, but lock in and load up. You know we about to show up. Hey, more than numbers, and we're back in the building. Yes, feels good. I can actually physically touch you, Keanu. We're right here.
Nice. In the building together.
And we got
more than numbers. I hope you guys like that rap that Lamar brought us in with.
Had to put on.
The last time that he brought us in, it was atrocious. I don't even remember what he said. But we're here in Dallas at Dallas Theological Seminary.
D-Town.
They've been so gracious to let us use their podcast studio. It's nice to be in the building together again, Lamar.
That's why I'm so hyped.
Last time we were in the building together when you were out in Charlotte, man, that was a fire episode. But being able to just feed off each other's energy. But speaking of energy, all right, y'all, you guys are about to get to hear from one of the most energetic people I know in his faith, in his business, in his family, in his friendships. He just had his best year in real estate by far. From his second year to his third year, he increased his business by 130%. Woo! All right. He recently moved from Albuquerque to Dallas to also join Dallas Theological Seminary to grow in his faith there. And he's engaged to be married in November.
Hey.
I mean, this guy's capacity is just through the roof.
That's not even close to everything that we can mention.
His accomplishments are indicative of his Enneagram type. He is the type 3 achiever, and he knows a little bit or a lot of bit about achieving. So it's with great pleasure I introduce you all to Andrew Templeton. What's up, Andrew?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on today. I am excited to be here and just glad that my school has a podcast facility that we can use. It's my first time in here, so I'm pumped.
Man, thanks for making this happen and reserving this place, because this is phenomenal. I'm loving it.
Yeah, this is really nice. We got the camera going as well, so you all, if you're listening to this on podcast, you can see us on YouTube. Wave to the camera, everybody.
Hey.
What's up, guys? Man, we're excited to be jumping into it, to get to interview somebody like you, not only because you're my friend. Honestly, you're a professional that I would want on this podcast, even if you weren't one of my best friends, even if you weren't the best man in my wedding. I would still want to hear from you, from your perspective. But I listed a lot of the accomplishments that you've done, Andrew. But before we get into all of those, tell me about your knowledge of the Enneagram and how you came to discover the Enneagram.
That is a very great question. Actually, funny enough, it was here in Dallas at my brother and sister-in-law's wedding. They're getting right before they get married. First night there, we're playing games late, and someone walks in and starts to bring out the Enneagram book, starts discussing it, talking to my cousin, person I've never met till right then. And I'm like, what the heck, the 1 through 9 numbers?
Like, another one of those personality tests.
Because I had another buddy who was like, are you an ENFJ, Myers-Briggs, da-da-da-da, these things.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
I don't know. That was my first time hearing about it. And I was like, nah, I'm not about numbers. And I just tell people, they're like, what number are you on the Enneagram? I'm like, I'm a 10. Mm-hmm. I'm a 10 out of 10.
I transcend the Enneagram system.
Basically.
Something a 3 would say. What made you start to dig into it a little bit deeper after that first encounter?
It wasn't for a while, actually, probably about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, until I realized that it's really, really important for me to know myself and know how I'm going to react and act in certain situations, and my reasons behind doing things a lot of the time. And that just comes from knowing oneself and having people pick that from the outside. And the Enneagram's a great starter to that, especially like just online quiz. Oh, that makes sense. That's why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And then obviously if you have someone coaching you or someone talking to you about it, you can go a little bit deeper into that. But really just to know oneself a little bit better.
Yeah.
One of the things that like hit me about Enneagram was I was discovering things that were actually a good side of me that I thought were wrong. And then I was discovering things that like, okay, this is me overcompensating. Did you have an experience like that as well?
Not just an overcompensation. I saw it. You mean overcompensation in the sense that like, oh, I got to live up to these standards.
Exactly.
See it on here.
Exactly. And because I'm trying to live up to these standards, I tend to lead to an unhealthy version of myself is more so what I was.
No, I didn't have that experience.
Okay.
As a driven individual. In that. No big deal. But I did have the experience where it was really, really good to know on the opposite side of things, that when I'm not in health, like all of a sudden I just like shut down. I'm like, don't want to talk to anyone, don't want to do anything. I'm like, why am I like this? In that sense, like I'm go all the time, and then just things just hit me, and you're just like, whatever it is, right? In life, we got challenges, we got obstacles in front of us, and it's just like, oh, stop. All right, I'm done. I'm gonna go on a little ball. We ain't talking to nobody, right? And I'm like, oh, that's like a type 3 retreating to it. What type is that, Keanu?
Type 9.
Type 9. Yeah, that's it. I ain't gonna do nothing. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's really great, Andrew. You know what's interesting is this podcast is about helping people better understand themselves, and the Enneagram is just the tool to do that. So in the best way, we don't want you to know the Enneagram. We want you to know yourself. So tell us about yourself as it pertains to the Enneagram and how it helped to bring more insight to who you are as a person, while also explaining what an Enneagram Type 3 achiever is.
Well, I've always been driven. I remember driven by looking good for people and also actually succeeding. It's a combination thereof that I've had. So I remember back in 6th grade, in middle school, they made you run that mile test. And I was a little overweight kid. I played football, had a little belly going on there, lineman action. And we'd run the mile. First time I ran the mile, and I was second in my class. I ran like a 6:32 mile, and I was, over like, Andrew, how'd you do that?
As a fat boy.
Like, they're like, you were, what? The other kid ran like a 5:40 mile. Like, he was a soccer player, one of those in-shape guys, Mr. Popular. But I was like, oh, I just worked hard. Like, I wanted to excel at it. I want to do my absolute best and be as many people as possible. Yeah. Right? And so I saw that, and in high school, I'd be working on homework, my math homework in history class, and it was both AP classes, because I was like, after class, I got 3 sports I got to go play. It'd be like 2 sports in there and 1 sport in the morning. And I didn't ever realize, I'm like, I keep going and going and going and doing all this stuff. And that's what the Enneagram really showed me. When looking back at my past, I was like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. And it wasn't really until Christ really overtook me as my Lord and Savior, and I started focusing on Him, that I was willing to slow down a little bit and even think about serving others. Because a lot of time it was like me all the time, and kind of like, how do I look? And now it's like, all right, how can I help other people as well?
Yeah. You said something there that's very common, of course, for Type 3s, that the idea of success can shift. And that's why it's so important to have that anchor, which was and is Christ for you, that says, yes, all of these ideas of success can change, but ultimately there's an ultimate mission, right? Which speaks a lot to the Type 3 taking on the characteristics of the Type 6 in health, the loyalist. So becoming very committed and loyal to an ideal. So tell me about how that shifted for you, that when you really get focused and you know what your idea of success is, what that feels like to not be, in a way, kind of shifting to what success looks like next. How do you maintain focus on your goals? Because you've accomplished a lot of things. As Andrew said, guys, the 3 isn't just about looking good. They are really good at being good. They are the achiever. So tell me a little bit about focus and finding what's most important as a Type 3.
Well, as a Type 3 and also as a Christian, that's my identifying rock. So I tell people, like,
so good.
People always ask, hey, what do you do? That's the number one question in America, because we're all about what do you do in that. And I tell people I'm a Christian man who happens to sell homes, right? That is just the means that I use right now in real estate to glorify God. So good. And so when I have that rock of my identity saying, hey, this is my foundation, and my ultimate mission is to make Christ known and know Him more myself in that, that overlies everything. And then so when I go down, and one thing I was thinking about is I've broken it down into a year where I break it down into quarters. I focus on one big thing per quarter. So I can grow in a certain area and then take it back a little bit in that area. And they're all going to be focused, somewhat have Christ in the center of that. And so let's just say, for an instance, like, man, my first quarter, you know what, my number one focus is I'm working on real estate this quarter. I'm going to crush it in real estate. I have to make, 25 calls a day, 5 days a week, X, Y, and Z, set those, small breakdown goals. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm saying, all right, instead of thinking like image of a house in my head, I'm like, no, I got to put a focus on image of Christ in front of that house. So I always see Christ first. Yeah. How am I glorifying God in my real estate section? Yeah. And in the second quarter, maybe something slightly different, going to school and focusing on seminary in my second quarter of the year, things like that. And I break it down to quarter, but I was looking at how can I keep Christ at the center of my focus for that quarter.
So good.
Yeah. I mean, he's the one that satisfies every single need, right? And the interesting thing is when we are focused on these worldly goals, whether that be revenue or the amount of houses or whatever, we're thinking about things that are fleeting. Like, as soon as we hit it, it's okay, now what?
Oh, 100%. I had like 4 goals for my second quarter this year that it was like, had to do with real estate, had to do with leadership, had to do with physicality, like what I'm lifting, and then also how my relationship. Yep. And I had a reward for hitting all those goals, but I got to all those goals, hit them all early, and I was like, all right, so like, what's next? Like, what do I do? Right.
Right.
And it's me like, all right, change the goal, make it bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's me like, sure, like 5 minutes of satisfaction maybe.
Yeah.
But then it's moving. I'm like, all right, what's next? Kind of a deal.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing about it that is also dangerous. What I'd see from being a type 3 without being rooted in Christ is you're constantly pursuing the next thing, and then nothing is fulfilling your needs. And then once you've gone 50 years of your life just accomplishing things and never feeling fully satisfied,
Right.
then
Right.
what? So it's
Yeah.
important that you have that foundation first and foremost.
Well, which is such a trap for each type that they're trying to compensate and be fulfilled. And for each type, it's something different. For the 3, it's filling it with success, but with the 8, it's just filling it with anything,
Yeah.
with more, very obsessive personality. And for the 1, it's filling it with trying to be right, trying to be good. And we know that no person is good, right?
Yep.
So being able to understand that, that's super helpful.
Hey, Andrew, sorry, you said something while you were telling your story was you had to learn the difference between looking successful for other people and actually being successful. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what you meant by that and what
So
that
good.
what difference was for you?
Yeah, a couple things in that regards is we look a lot of times we see success. I mean, just for example, you guys, it's like on Instagram we see a lot of things. It's somebody driving the car. It's somebody that has the wife and kids that you want, or X, Y, and Z, whatever you're looking for. And you see on the outside, when really on the inside they are totally like off. They're in suffering, they're depression, they're in debt, all these different things going on. And so instead of trying to look at good on the outside at first, I'm saying, wow, how can I please God?
Yeah.
And then also, what does that success look like? Yeah, I'm gonna hit some metrics. So we're saying if I actually hit the metric of selling X, Y, 20 homes or not, say I hit that metric in the first 6 months of the year, right? I'm gonna say, awesome, I hit that success first, and that's gonna look good to other people as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on just looking good first, it's saying do these things exceedingly well, right? Do all to the glory of God, and watch how God receives the glory, how He looks at that, and then how other people are gonna see that, like, dang, why does he work so hard like that? Or why is how's he hitting those goals? What's he doing? And it's just a matter of like, it's focusing on the steps and the actions and getting there first instead of saying, I got to see how I got to look to other people.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is your work is your worship.
Ooh, everything I do is worship, right? Even right now, as you guys mentioned, that I'm in seminary and it's taking Greek class, and Greek is hard if you ever want to try it. Hey,
I'm all right.
Koinonia, Greek, yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass.
And it's saying, and my professor challenge, he's like, this is your act of worship. He's like, all the time, raising your hands at church, that's the easy act of worship, right? Relatively, because you'll worship, they'll singing, but he's saying when you have to dive in and use your brain for 3 or 4 hours at a time, that's a hard act of worship. But we're saying, why am I doing this? It's for God. And so when you have that mindset, and thank you for bringing that back up, is the mindset is every single thing you do is an act of worship if you have the right mindset behind it, the right heart into it for God. And that's really where things shift and change.
Yeah. And I like the way that you're sharing that practically, even when you're looking at a home and just keeping Jesus in the forefront and honoring Him in everything that you do. You had talked about, coming and going to seminary. So you're still a real estate professional. You're still engaged, also a CrossFit coach, I forgot to mention earlier, and going to seminary.
We're probably going to forget a lot of different things.
What else are you doing? I know there's more.
I'm not really sure on
Leading
everything
a
I'm
group?
doing. Leading a small group. I'm working on doing a CrossFit ministry at my church right now. As soon as I start that back up, just a couple of things that I got going on that I remember for sure.
Yeah. So doing all of these things, how do you do it?
One, God has blessed me with a lot of energy that I get to use. That does require a lot of sleep, though. You guys can attest to that. I'm like, man, 8.5 hours, that's golden right there. Like, we're good on 6. And I'm like, whoa, what? I need like 8.5 to
5, 6, I'm Gucci.
to go hard in that. God just blessed me with a lot of energy, and I really like filling my schedule. I'm also extroverted in that, so people energize me. Like, the more we talking, I'm getting more energized right now, right? You're probably like, hey, I can't hear him now. He's talking too fast.
Yeah.
And so by filling my schedule with people helps me to get more energized throughout the day, but then also I can plan. I don't even schedule my whole day sometimes, but most of the time I do. Having it pretty well laid out and figuring out what I can do, but having 2 things in there. One is in the morning, I have a quiet time with God. I can say one of my really good friends who's in my wedding as well, Mason, we like 3 years ago, we started going to Starbucks every morning. We were roommates. We started reading the Bible in the morning. And I was like, man, this is kind of boring. Part of it was kind of boring. You get in there like...
keep it real, man.
It was starting out boring.
If you haven't been bored by the Bible at some point, you're a human. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You're not human if you haven't been, so it's okay.
And then he left, go study, work abroad and do this travel fund for stuff for like 8 months. And so we did a month of that in the Word in the morning. And I just kept that going.
Yeah.
And that's been the same every single day for, I think, 3.5 years now. every single day, going from different plans, finishing the Bible, finishing the New Testament, and then the Bible in 2 years, and now going back through it again in a year. And by having that root in the morning, that's a good solid foundation in there. Crushing the day, whatever you need, whatever you have in there, and at the end saying, hey, what's my stop time? Because I have a tendency to oh yeah, I'm gonna make this deal. It's 10:30 at night, or I do something else, and all of a sudden it's 12:30. I'm like, man, I gotta get up at 6 tomorrow morning. This is not good. So it's finding that stop time that's I have to stop here to spend time with my fiance, spend time with my family at a certain time, and get that rest, and then also having that foundation in the morning with God.
Right. All the whole time. I mean, just kind of going back to what you were alluding to earlier was starting on the inside out. Not so much worried about my appearance as how I look while I'm trying to achieve success. And it brought me to this scripture, Matthew 23:25-26, New Living Translation. What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are so careful to clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside you are filthy, full of greed and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first wash the inside of the cup and the dish, and then the outside will become clean too.
That was good. That's everything what you were explaining about actually doing things with excellence to glorify God, and then the look happens to just come with it.
Exactly.
So this is Enneagram for entrepreneurs, business owners, business professionals, right? You are one of the best networkers that I know. I mean, I remember when we were out in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago and we were on the scooters, and you happened to take off on the scooter, and we caught up and we saw you just talking with somebody, praying with somebody, connecting with somebody. It seems like networking is so natural to you. Tell us a little bit about your how you network as a 3, but also maybe just some tips for all types or all people on how to network or the importance of it.
It's like your mindset going into it.
Yeah.
I love people. That's the good mindset right there, right? And sometimes, so the first mindset is I love people. I'm not using people. Yeah, that's what it is. If you're trying to use people for just a number in your head, they're going to know that, and then it's not going to work out in the long run for you.
Yeah.
You may get, great, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is, but eventually the business is going to crash and crumble because you're not built on a solid foundation. And so it's coming and saying, I love people. I love getting to know people in that. And so every opportunity is get to know their story, what's going on in their lives, and then make a connection because you never know what they might need. Maybe they need a coach of some kind, maybe a financial advisor, maybe they need to buy a house, right? And just as our examples right here, but maybe they need a CrossFit gym to go to. You don't know what they need and how they can be encouraged in life. Yeah. And so by getting whoever it is at church, outside on the streets, at the CrossFit gym, just getting to know them and figuring out their stories of what's going on in their lives and how you can serve them and love them at the same time. And then it's natural because your goal in business is to get a name, a number, probably an email address, right? And so it's naturally hey, let me get your number and I'll get you connected with so-and-so. And then you get, whatever they're looking for. I'll get you connected with this CrossFit gym. All right, I got their number, I got their name. I can follow up with them, make sure you get connected to the CrossFit gym. And then in 3 months or 2 months, I'll follow up with them to see how they're doing with that. And just remind them I'm in real estate.
Yeah. So good.
Whatever that is. And so just by coming from that authenticity that I actually love this person, I want to get to know them.
Yeah.
What do you need? And then it's all of a sudden it's I got a friend and I got their number, which is the real thing I need for any kind of business, right? And if they happen to buy a home in a couple years or now, great.
Gosh.
If they don't, great.
If you guys are listening to that, make sure you rewind that and listen to that over again because he's telling you exactly where it starts. I think too often we go to these networking events, we go to meet people, and all we're thinking about is okay, how do I get them interested in my business so I can sell them something? Right. When really what Andrew goes in there is, 1, I want to meet someone, love someone, find a need, meet a need.
Right.
And then let them know where I'm at. And they'll use me when the time is right. I think we're so eager as sales or business people to meet someone and then automatically just dive into them purchasing something from you when really we've done nothing to show them that you meet needs in general. So I love 100%. That.
And I know that a lot of your business, it stemmed from things like that. I happened to just invite a guy to Bible study and then all of a sudden 3 months later they were buying a home. Or you referred them to a CrossFit gym or you introduced them to Mason or to Lamar and all of a sudden you really cared about meeting their need. And as entrepreneurs, the marketplace is this. It's the place people go to meet a need.
Yeah.
So that's the marketplace. And if you're going and thinking, well, the marketplace is going somewhere where I can sell something, then you're going to miss it.
Right.
And so sales, it has a really negative connotation. But what's your take on sales? You kind of elaborated on it with what you just said. But what's your take on sales? Because people think very negatively of sales oftentimes. What's your perspective?
Man, I hear even going into just being myself and not trying to have that salesman mentality or whatnot, being myself and they're like, are you in sales? And that's and I'm at a coffee shop, just talking to the barista kind of a deal because I ask them questions to get to know them. and have a mindset of that. And people are like, oh, you must be in sales sometimes. Right? I'm like, wait, just because I'm asking questions means I'm in sales? And people just have a mindset behind that. Obviously I sell things, right? I'm switching the mindset behind that because I'm saying I am helping people walk the journey of getting home. Right? And I'm kind of their counselor, their guide, whatever you want to call it in that. And so instead of thinking, because it's not my house I'm selling, it's somebody else's house I'm selling most likely.
Right.
You know, 1 out of every 100 is a house I actually own. But it's one of those things of saying, I'm just a guide along the way. And so I was thinking myself like Gandalf, Lord of the Rings. And he's just kind of like, because like Frodo, he's got to get the ring there. There's all these different main characters going on. And there's Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White. And he's just like, I'm going to help you guys get there, right?
Yeah.
I'm part of the show. I'm not the main guy.
I'm the guy.
So when I think of sales, I'm like, I'm part of the show, but you're the main guy.
Yeah,
going
you're
in
the main
there.
character. That's so good. And positioning yourself as the guide makes me think of Donald Miller Story Brand and all of his stuff. So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to talk about or you want to learn about positioning yourself as the guide, check out Donald Miller and Story Brand. But there is definitely a negative mindset around salespeople. And what I'm trying to do with the course that I'm offering coming up, More Than Numbers Sales, is change the perspective on a salesperson. A salesperson should be someone that builds a connection, builds a relationship, and meets a need. Literally everything that you are. Not someone that just goes into make some money, right? And so changing that mindset and being able to build that connection, this is the plug for More Than Numbers Sales. So go to www.truestrategy.info. You can register now. We're going to be starting November 10th. We're going to leverage the Enneagram and connection to talk about building your sales capabilities, because you will learn how to know and understand yourself, learn how to know and understand your client, ultimately empathize with them, not to manipulate them, but to serve them. And you can register for that. So yeah, we hope to see you there.
Yeah, register for it. It made me think obviously I don't know all the Enneagram types. I can't tell them right off the bat in terms of individuals. But most of the people that I work with in real estate is I don't push. That's a big thing about sales. A negative connotation is that people are, oh, he's too pushy. Now, Keanu might like that as an 8. He's like, yeah, you got to push me a little bit. Like, all right, let's do this right now. Come on, let's go. But most people are a little more reserved on things. And so I'm like,
Keanu's the type that when he sees a house and he really likes it, I was like, so how come you're not buying it yet?
Yeah.
I'll elaborate on that after Andrew's done.
Yeah. But and so I want them to go at their own pace, whatever pace that is or whatnot. And some people are more apprehensive depending on their type. Maybe that's a type 6. A little bit, no, 5, 6. 6 would be 6, 5, 6 might be a little more apprehensive on things, a little worried about analytical, thinking about all the stuff that could go wrong with it. And I take them back to their why. So things I always ask them are, what are 3 things that you want in a house? Right, the 3 must-haves you're holding on to with that tight fist. And I remember those. I write them down. So that when we're in a house and they're looking at it, and I'm not pushing, right? And I'm just looking, and I'm like thinking to myself, this actually meets all their needs. And I remind them of that. Hey, remember when you told me that you had to have that 2-car garage, that backyard for your golden doodle, and that huge kitchen so you can host people, right? Yeah. All right, this has all those. What's holding you back from putting in an offer? Yeah. Right? And so it's the balance of saying, I'm not going to be pushy, but at the right moment, I'm going to remind them and push them to say, you're right, Andrew. Let's put an offer in.
Yeah. That's really good stuff. Go ahead.
Let me elaborate on my 8-ness, because absolutely you all have known me from, 3-4 years now, from the moment I found Christ almost. And I think you guys might have seen the transformation, but in the beginning I was absolutely a blunt force object, a blunt object just bludgeoning people into, doing what I wanted or thought they should do. It was never really about me, but it was like, hey, yeah, you like that house, go buy it. Like, what's holding you back? Yeah. And then I realized, and this is where the 8 or the Enneagram has been transformative for me, is that you get so much further leveraging influence over force. And so learning how you can best serve that person and come alongside them, because the intention of the 8 is to truly help and protect and to serve. But oftentimes that comes across much more aggressive, like a blunt force object, instead of someone that's trying to guide them and support them. So yeah, I just wanted to speak to that a little bit.
So Andrew, when you were first getting started in your real estate career, what were some of the challenges that you were facing?
The biggest challenge that I faced is with any sales business, you got to make cold calls, you got to talk to people, and I didn't have fun with that. That was the biggest challenge, and so I switched up a little bit of just being myself instead of trying to force something upon me. Yes, you do have to make some calls at some time, and it's good to do around that. But at the same time, instead of saying, hey, here's a script you need to use, it's all right, let's just talk to this person. and get to know them a little bit,
Right.
and really switch out. That was what really helped me.
Yeah.
And then go to my strong point of like, I like being in front of a camera. So posting videos every day on Facebook.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah.
You know, I like talking to my friends. So instead of making cold calls, I'm like, I'm gonna send a video message, right? And so I send a video message because that's more enjoyable. That gets me hyped up more than a phone call. Cause I'm like, ring, ring, ring. All right, they're gonna answer what I'm gonna say. Okay. You know? And so using my strength using my strength to myself is saying, I like making video messages. All right, I'm gonna send video messages instead of making that call. And so the hardest things to do is like the things we don't want to do. There are certain things that we don't want to do. We have to do them.
Yeah.
But then it's saying, well, how can I do this and make this more fun for myself, no matter what? Is how can I enjoy this more? And now those things, the 20% of things, it should be like 20%. Man, I don't want to do the other 80%. I want to do. It's fun for me, right? And so that 20% is like, that's got to be knocked out first thing in the morning. That's the biggest thing that I had to change in my life. I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna make phone calls in the afternoon, get some stuff done in the morning. And I was like, that didn't work out. I don't want to make I don't want to make calls. And so that was one of the hard things.
Do they have like percentages in your career, like where they'd say like, oh, 50% of people who start in real estate make it to second year, third year, fourth? Like, do they say the statistics stuff?
You know, I need to get those stats for you guys next time.
Okay.
I do not know them. I know my brother would know them. He was a team leader out here at Keller Williams in Dallas. And so we know that I would say, you know, majority of people spend a couple years in the business and then a recession hits typically. And that's when about 80% of the people, you know, just from my brother's numbers, get out of the business.
Yeah.
And so when you see someone who's been in the business for like 25, 30 something years, you're like,
They've been
through some stuff. Yeah. And that's also a lot of adaptation and change. Most people don't want to put the hard work in and they don't want to adapt to something new.
Yeah.
Andrew, rejection is something that we all have to deal with as entrepreneurs, and the sooner
I don't get rejected.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't get rejected.
That's probably true with your approach. Very, very enticing. We'll ask your fiance about that, huh? Clearly, she knows, you know, you're quite lovable. But anyways, how you had talked about, you know, making cold calls and things like that. That's something that you have to do as an entrepreneur. You have to be contacting people, or else you're going to fail in your business. It doesn't matter what you do, right? How did you deal with rejection? Because a type 3 takes on the unhealthy characteristics of a type 9 when they're unhealthy, which can become more shut off and a recluse. But I know you, and I've seen you flat out get rejected, and you just dive in even deeper to contact more people and do these things. It's always just been so intriguing to me. So how do you deal with that? How do you take a rejection? Because I know when you're making phone calls, sometimes someone's like, hey, don't call me again, leave me alone, right? Probably hasn't happened to you in a long time.
And they cuss you out too. That's the worst.
Exactly. Exactly. You think like you're, you know, calling from 500 miles away, and it's like, hey, I just met you at the coffee shop. Come on, man.
Couldn't do what you do. I don't get cussed out.
But yeah, tell me about how you deal with that, honestly.
There have been, just being honest, you know, when I was first getting into it, there were days where I'd be like, all right, I'm done. You know, after a couple calls or whatever it was, just not having the right mindset around it. And we fail. Like, that's okay to fail. I'd say that the worst rejections for me are still currently is when I have a good friend or someone I know, and they're like, oh yeah, we're working with such and such realtor. And I'm like, I have talked to you. Like, I got you qualified. I did X, Y, and Z. Those are the hardest rejections still. And that's when I take the 10 or 15 minutes to reset, turn on a worship song, do something I love, you know, journal a little bit.
Yeah.
I do all right, pause, I got to reset. That's how I take rejection for those, for the bigger ones. For the smaller ones, like I'm making phone calls and someone yells at me or whatnot, I'm just like, all right, next. And that next doesn't just mean, all right, next number, next person. It means next person I can love. Next person I can love. Is how I look at things. And so shifting that mindset is like, I'm going to call this person. I'm going to do my best to love them. And sometimes that's a 20-minute call. I try not to have the long 30-minute calls with people, 20, 30 minutes. But sometimes that means just to encourage someone. And you're like, all right, they're never buying a home. I know they can't afford it. I know they can't, you know, just where they're at with financials, X, Y, and Z, maybe in 30 years, but not right now. Right. And I'm like, but I love them well. All right, next. Who's the next person I can love? Somebody cusses me out. And then if I get hung up on too, I call them back.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, it looks like we just got disconnected. I just want to see what happened there and how your day's going. Right? Because they probably hung up for a reason. They're upset about something. And so I call them back. If they hang up on me again, let them go. Next person I can love and move on to that.
So good.
Yeah. No, I think it's when you are having that next like person mentality, what comes to mind is at the end of the day, when you're in any type of sales or service or providing any type of product, one, the person has to have a desire to be helped. And it's not up to us to make that decision. They can protrude that denial in any kind of way that they want to. They can show it in anger or by hanging up or by ghosting you. But at the end of the day, we can only help people that want to be helped. And that's what everyone needs to know in any type of career, is that you can only help people that want to be helped.
100%.
No matter if they can use you or not, they have to want to be helped.
I have a saying, Andrew. I want to get your take on it because as an 8, it just feeds my soul. But I have a saying about sales that says, if I have to convince you, I'm done talking. If I have to convince you, I'm done talking. You're not my customer. What's your take on that?
I agree. I don't have to convince any of my clients they need to buy a home or they need to get in there. It's just a matter of talking to them and saying, is this a need you have? All right, it's not right now. Awesome, I'll follow up. Oh, it is? All right, let's see how we can help you. Right? That's the biggest thing.
What's your perspective, Lamar, as a type 1?
Oh, 100%. Like there's going to be those times where people may want to go into this back and forth match on a recommendation or an idea or a concept. But once you know that if you're making the right recommendation, you're providing the correct product, and they don't feel the same way, then just keep it pushing. I think it's always better to just savor the relationship than to start a tennis match for no reason.
Right. Yeah, if I have to convince you, I'm done talking. Keep that in mind, folks. There are plenty of people out there that do want to work with you. That's not your customer. Stop trying to talk to the people that don't want to talk to you and find the ones that do, the ones that do want to work with you, right?
While we got your real estate brain in here, I wanted to tap into some of that knowledge, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So in the environment that we're in, interest rate wise, economy wise, uncertainty, everyone keeps talking about normal and if that's ever going to come back.
You create your own normal.
Exactly. There we go. What should we be thinking about, those of us that are like, hey, about real estate, like I'm about to dump in or it's about to be my second or third home or it's my first one. Like, what are some things that they should be thinking about?
That's a great question right there. Several things going on there. Interest rates still sitting about 3% for a 30-year mortgage, 2.75 for 15-year. If you guys don't know what that means, the lowest I saw was 2.75 for a 30-year, and that's the lowest it's been, I think I'm going to say ever, right? Pretty much. You know, I've been in the business a couple years now. Licensed for 6 years, a year that I spent teaching English, a year that I spent teaching at a school, so learn some other stuff. So really going out full-time for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And so that's the lowest I've seen it. But what we have right now is we have a great interest rate, but a low supply and in most areas. And that's just because we have an influx of people coming up, buying homes. And with COVID, not as many people putting their homes in the market. Hey, I don't want to move. Older individuals, or people who are a little more fearful, I'm going to say. There's other words I could use there. But like, you know what? I'm good right now. I'm not going to move, not going to sell. So the lower inventory rate, lower interest rates means we have a lot of buyers, low interest rates I want to buy, but not as many houses on the market.
Oh, okay.
So it's competitive. I'll put it that way.
Got you.
Where you're multiple offer situations for most buyers, depending on the price range, but there's multiple offer situations.
And it's making those prices go up, right?
So it's making those prices go up. So if you're looking to move and you're a seller, now is a great time. Or to get an asset. I just sold one yesterday, actually, in Albuquerque, that it was a rental property, and we met, before I left Albuquerque, and we talked about it, and I said, hey, this is the best time to sell, to be honest. Yeah. And then I got a phone call 2 weeks ago and putting somebody else's rental property on the market here next weekend as well. So people who have a house or a rental property, it makes it a good time to sell it. But for buyers, you're also able to afford more, and if you looking to get into a house, I would still recommend it right now. We don't know the biggest thing right now for us, and just little politics here, is we don't know what's going to happen after the election. Right. Yeah. The election is going to have a big impact on those interest rates, on what the Treasury does. The Treasury yield really affects interest rates for houses. Right. And so if that goes up, obviously the amount of buyers are going to be like, yep, don't want to buy right now. Interest rates are too high. Right. And that's going to impact things. So for the next 3 weeks, I would say sell, buy, do what you can, and we'll see what happens after that. Yeah. Beyond that, I can't say.
That's great. That's a great question, and I think it's super helpful to people. And thank you, Andrew. Here's the real question. Why CrossFit?
Ooh, I like you bringing that out. Well, the funny thing is, again, pulling it back to about 3 years ago, my brother's wedding, one of his buddies had me do like 100 clean and jerks, with him. And I was like, I don't know what clean and jerks are, right? And then I came back and tried to do a few like Olympic lifting and really was not good at it. But my pastor and one of my best friends, Matt Flores, who's doing my wedding here in 3 weeks, shout out, he was like, hey, why don't you work out in my home gym with me? And so once a week on Friday mornings, we go in the home gym, start doing CrossFit style workouts. And I was like, this is good. And we invite some other people. And so I really fell in love with the high intensity, the fact that I worked my brain because I had to learn new movements, and the fact that I did it with people. There's something about pushing yourself with other individuals because you can push higher, faster. And then afterwards, you're dead, and you're just like, man, let's talk. And all of a sudden, all this junk comes out, these things, you're like, I'm crying. What happened? Right? Because you suffered through something together, so you're closer. And so afterwards, your conversations are deeper as well. So I love the community with high intensity. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yep. Yeah. It's the reason why professional teams are in such great shape, because they work out together all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember what that was like. And as soon as I graduated and didn't have it, all downhill from there.
I just like to lift things up and put them down. Well, Andrew, it's been awesome getting to hear your perspective, man. You are someone that I personally deeply admire as a professional, as a friend, as a man of God. You've guided and supported me, honestly, throughout my whole walk, throughout my marriage, and I'm just so thankful to let our listeners hear from your perspective. But how can they engage with you? Maybe somebody that wants to engage on the real estate side of selling or buying a home, or somebody that wants to go into a real estate career. How can people get in contact with you or engage with you?
That's a great question. Yeah, whether it's you're looking to buy a home, sell a home across the United States. I have business partners across the United States. Helped a friend some high school buyout in Virginia, actually. Wow. I'm waiting for Lamar to buy one out in Cali. But you can follow me.
That's going to take time.
Yeah, you can follow me at Andrew Scott Templeton on the IG, Instagram. DM me there, or if you Google Andrew Templeton, Keller Williams, you'll find my name and number, and we can get in touch about things. Would love to help you serve that way.
Google him. He is one handsome man. You want to go and find. Also, he's a taco connoisseur, so when you follow him on Instagram, you're going to get taco reviews from Dallas, Albuquerque, and basically everywhere that he goes. Well, awesome, Andrew. Thank you for this. Everybody, this has been More Than Numbers, Enneagram for Entrepreneurs. Any final words, gentlemen?
No, man, thanks for sharing, Andrew. It's been great to have you here. I love being in this building with all you guys. This has been awesome. Keanu, tell the people, once again, remind them, how do they get more Enneagram? Where do they go?
100%. TrueStrategy.info. Go and check out our new website if you haven't yet. We have a blog that is live weekly now as well. 500 words, 1 to 2 minute reads, very quick to help engage there. But also we have our courses coming up, More Than Numbers Sales and More Than Numbers Lead. I know that a lot of you as professionals have taken a lot of courses about how to do a lot of things, but we're going to talk about how to be and why you do what you do to better lead and to better engage in your sales career. So go and check us out, TrueStrategy.info. Andrew?
I got one final thing for you guys, just actually 3 things, because that's how I always do 3.
Hey, let's go.
3 is a great number.
We look at the 3 things I want you guys to remember is find something to be grounded in every single day, whether you're type 3, whatever type you are. For me, that's time in the Word and working out. So get my alone time in there and my time with the Lord. The second thing is do everything with respect to how can I serve this person, or how can I love this person, instead of what can I get from them, right? Yep. It's how can I serve them and love them. And 3, be consistent in it. Whatever it is, you got to be consistent with it. You can't just do it for a week or 2 weeks. You got to be consistent for that entire quarter, that entire year, day in and day out, and watch what happens.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Andrew.
Let's go.
See you all next time.
Peace.
Peace.